Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today for beginner lesson number 7, I'm going to be showing you how to increase, how to decrease, what it means to yarn over or yarn under, and then also how to make a slip stitch. First, I'm going to show you how to make increases in your work. I'm going to be showing you how to do that with double crochets, just because I think it might be easier for you to see the stitches with a double crochet. If you don't know how to make double crochets and you do want to know how, I will place a video in the iCards right up here so that you can go check that out and learn how to do that. So first, this is row 1 of our stitches of double crochets, and I'm going to count the stitches to show you how many we're starting with. This first part right here is our turning chain of 3 when we started our bottom row, so it does not count as a stitch. This is the first double crochet we placed in, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 stitches in this first row. For row 2, we already chained our next 3, and if you recall, this chain 3 does count as a double crochet. Usually, when we're continuing just to make 12 stitches for the next row, we skip this first stitch here because we already have one here. However, if we want to increase, we're actually going to place a double crochet right there in that first stitch. So we're going to place our double crochet here, and now we have 2 stitches. So now if we only wanted to increase the row by 1, we would just continue making 1 double crochet in the rest of the stitches. And at the end here, I will show you that we now have 13 stitches. Here we are at the end of the row and our last stitch here, so I'm just going to place a double crochet into that stitch. So let me go ahead and count our stitches here to show you. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 stitches in our row 2, as opposed to 12 in our previous row. To continue on, we'll chain our 3, we'll turn our work, and now let's say we want to increase every other stitch. So what we're going to do is start with an increase. So we're going to place a double crochet in this first stitch here. So we have those 2 stitches in our 1. Now for the next stitch, we're just going to place 1 double crochet. So now we have 3. Now for our next one, since we're increasing every other, we're going to place 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So there's 1. Now we're just going to place 1 more into the same stitch. And there are 2 double crochets in this 1 stitch. So we're going to go into our next one and just place 1 double crochet. And in our next one, we will place 2. There's 1, and there's 2. Okay, so you can see now that since we increased every other stitch, we should have added 7 to our row since we had 13 in our previous. We should have 20 up here, and as you can see, this is starting to fan out and become wider by adding stitches. So let's go ahead and count this row. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So we have 20 stitches in this row. We had 13 in this one, and we had 12 in this one. So you can see with the increases, it makes your project bigger than when it started. You can increase every other, you can increase every single one, you can increase in the starting and ending. It all just depends on the pattern that you're working with and what you're trying to get out of it, what kind of shape or length or whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's just how you do increases. Let's say now that we wanted to decrease. Maybe we don't want 20 in the next row, maybe we want 18. Which means we're going to have to take 2 stitches off of the previous row. There are several ways that you can decrease, and one of the ways I'm going to show you is by doing a slip stitch. First, instead of chaining 3 to start our next row like we normally would to keep going as per usual, we're going to turn our work and we're going to go into this second stitch here. Not this first one, but the second, because we're decreasing. We're going to go into that stitch. We're going to yarn over and grab some yarn. So now we have 2 loops on our hook. Instead of chaining or making this bigger, all we're going to do is take this loop and we're going to pull that through the loop that's on our hook. So you see now, I'm starting 1 stitch in to our next row without adding any height. So that is what a slip stitch is. It just moves your hook in however far you need it to be, wherever you place a slip stitch. Say we want to go into 1 more stitch and slip stitch, then we're just going to insert into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. We're going to take that loop and pull it through that first one. Now we're 2 stitches in. Since we want 18 in this row instead of 20, we're going to pull out that slip stitch, that second one, because that one was just for demonstration purposes. We're going to leave this first slip stitch in, and then we're going to chain 3 to start our next row. Now what we're going to do is go into our next stitch and place double crochet, and we're going to place a double crochet into every stitch going forward until we get to the end, and I will meet you there to show you what you need to do. Here we are at the end of our row. We have 2 stitches left. We have this double crochet and the turning chain, which counts as a stitch on that row. So what we're going to do, because we want to decrease by 2 to end up with 18 stitches instead of 20 like our previous, then we need to decrease by 1 more on this side, because over here we decreased by 1, as you can see that with our slip stitch. So now we need to decrease by 1 over here. So all I'm going to do is place a double crochet into this last stitch, and I'm not going to place anything into this stitch. Now this row should have 18, so let's go ahead and count that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So now you can see, clearly we're not really making anything because it looks a little janky, but this is just so that we can learn what happens when you increase and what happens when you decrease, and how it changes the form, the size, the shape of what you're working on. And that is how we increase and decrease in our project. Let me just explain to you now what it means to yarn over and yarn under. If you already know the difference between yarning over and yarning under, definitely go ahead and check out number 8 in the beginner lesson tutorial on how to make a magic ring, and I will catch you there. However, if you don't know what that means, just stick along a little bit longer and I'll show you what that means. So this is what it means to yarn over. Our working yarn is behind our crochet hook, and we take our hook and we wrap that yarn over the hook. That's why it's called yarning over. Now, if you have your hook in front of your working yarn and you wrap your hook under the yarn like this, then that's called yarning under. And you can see here that if I try to pull that yarn under through this loop, you have your yarn in front of your hook here. Now, if we go back to yarning over, so we take that yarn and put it over our hook and we pull through, then you can see that the yarn is now behind our hook. This makes it easier to pull through and create your loop. So that is how you yarn over or yarn under and what those mean. That's how you increase and decrease and how you make some slip stitches. Thank you for coming along. And if you want to know how to make the notorious magic ring, as I mentioned before, follow me along to video number 8 in our beginner series so you can learn how to make your own magic ring. I will catch you guys there. Bye!